When creating a mold of your 3D model in Blender using Boolean operations and preparing it for 3D printing, it's important to ensure that the mold reflects the actual size of your model. Here's how to verify and ensure that the dimensions of your 3D. In Blender, You can use Boolean operations to create a mold of a 3D model that can be 3D printed later. A mold typically involves creating a negative space that matches the shape of your model. Here's how you can use Boolean operations to create a mold of your finished 3D model in Blender. 1. Prepare your model. Check your model. Make sure your 3D model is ready for creating a mold. It should be a closed manifold mesh, i.e., no holes and proper geometry. 2. Create a container. Add a mesh. In object mode, add a mesh to serve as the container for your mold. This can be a cube or any other shape that can encompass your model. Scale the mesh. Adjust the size of the mesh so that your model fits inside of it. Make sure the model is completely enclosed within the container. 3. Use Boolean modifier. Select the container. Select the container mesh in object mode. Add Boolean modifier. In the Modifier Properties panel, click Add Modifier and select Boolean. Choose Operation. In the Boolean modifier settings, set the operation to Difference to subtract your model from the container. Set the object. Choose your model as the object to subtract from the container mesh. 4. Apply the modifier. Apply. Once you're satisfied with the settings, click Apply on the Boolean modifier. Check the result. Verify that the subtraction worked correctly and you have a negative space in the shape of your model. Mesh 5. Clean up the mesh, optional. Check Mesh. Inspect the resulting mesh for any irregularities or artifacts from the Boolean operation. Edit. Use mesh editing tools, e.g. knife sculpting, to clean up any rough edges or unwanted geometry. 6. Export the mold. Prepare for 3D printing. Ensure your mold is ready for 3D printing by checking the mesh for manifoldness and any other errors. Export. When you are ready, select the container mesh, your mold, and export it to an appropriate 3D printing file format, such as STL. Conclusion. Once you have successfully created a mold using Boolean operations in Blender, you can 3D print it later. Make sure to check your mesh and export settings to ensure the mold is prepared correctly for printing. You may want to review the final mesh for any potential problems that could affect the 3D printing process. If you are experiencing issues with the Boolean modifier in Blender, such as the container disappearing and then reappearing without any change when you move it, there could be a few reasons for this behavior. Here are some troubleshooting steps to help you resolve the issue. 1. Check the modifier stack order. Correct object order. In the Boolean modifier settings, make sure the correct object, your 3D model, is selected as the target object for the operation. Correct operation. Ensure the operation is set to difference if you want to subtract your model from the container. 2. Verify meshes for manifoldness. Non-manifold geometry. Check both your container and model to ensure they are closed, manifold meshes. Boolean operations can fail or produce unexpected results if the meshes are not manifold. Normal orientation. Ensure that the normals of both meshes are facing outward. In edit mode, select the mesh and check the orientation of the normals. Alt-N, recalculate normals. 3. Adjust mesh position and scale. Mesh overlap. Make sure the container and model overlap properly. If they are not intersecting, the Boolean operation won't work. Scale. Check the scale of both meshes to ensure they are set appropriately. 4. Apply the Boolean modifier. Try applying. If the Boolean modifier is set up correctly, try applying it by clicking the Apply button in the Modifier Properties panel. 5. Check modifier conflicts. Other modifiers. Check if there are any other modifiers on the container or model that might be interfering with the Boolean modifier. Apply other modifiers. If there are other modifiers, when you use Boolean operations in Blender, the resolution of the geometry can influence how well the operation captures the shape of your model. In general, the container mesh does not need subdivision to perform a Boolean operation. However, higher resolution meshes may provide more detail and precision in the final result. Considerations for subdividing the container. 1. Improved detail. Subdividing the container can increase the resolution of the mesh, which might help capture more intricate shapes and details of your model when using Boolean operations. 2. Avoid over-subdivision. While subdividing can improve the detail, avoid excessive subdivision, which can result in unnecessarily high poly counts and slow down your workflow. 3. Test without subdivision. Initially, perform the Boolean operation with your container as is. If the results are satisfactory and match your model well, you may not need subdivision. If the results are lacking in detail, or you notice jagged edges, consider subdividing the container mesh to see if the operation improves. 4. Boolean modifier settings. Experiment with the exact and fast options in the Boolean modifier settings. The exact option provides more precise results but may be slower and more complex. The fast option is quicker but may produce less precise results. 5. Inspect and adjust. After performing the Boolean operation, inspect the result and see if the surface of your model is properly captured. If the surface is not captured well, consider increasing the resolution of the container and trying the operation again. Conclusion. Subdividing the container can help in capturing the shape and detail of your model more precisely, but it may also increase the complexity of your mesh and processing time. Experiment with different levels of subdivision and Boolean modifier settings to find the best balance between precision and efficiency for your specific project. If you find that moving the container mesh does not change the result of the Boolean operation in Blender, there might be a few issues causing this behavior. Here are some troubleshooting steps to help you resolve the issue. Hash 1. Check the modifier stack. Boolean modifier. Ensure the Boolean modifier is active and applied to the correct object, your container. Operation. Verify the operation, e.g. difference, and the target object, your 3D model, in the Boolean modifier settings. 2. Overlap of meshes. Ensure proper overlap. For the Boolean operation to work, the container and your model must overlap. Check that the container is intersecting with your model. View in wireframe mode. Switch to wireframe mode, Z-key wireframe to see how the meshes intersect. 3. Boolean operation settings. Try switching operations. If you're using difference and it's not working, try other operations such as union or intersect temporarily to see if the Boolean is working correctly. Timesure 4. Check object type and geometry. Object types. Ensure both the container and the target model are mesh objects and not another type, e.g. curves. Mesh integrity. Check the integrity of the meshes by ensuring both the container and the model are closed, manifold meshes with outward-facing normals. 5. Recalculate normals. Recalculate normals. In edit mode, select the mesh and recalculate the normals. Alt-N, recalculate normals to ensure they are facing outward. 6. Apply transformations. Apply transforms. Sometimes transformations can cause issues. Select the objects and apply their transformations. Control-A all transforms. 7. Try re-adding the modifier. Remove and re-add. Remove the existing Boolean modifier, and then add a new one to see if this resolves the issue. Star 8. Check for modifier conflicts. Other modifiers. If there are other modifiers on the container or model, they may be interfering with the Boolean operation. Try removing them temporarily to see if that helps. 9. Other settings and troubleshooting. Display settings. In the Boolean modifier settings, check if you need to enable or disable certain options like fast, exact, or self, depending on your Blender version. Blender version. Make sure you're using the latest stable version of Blender. as some issues might be related to software bugs that have been resolved in newer versions. Conclusion: if you continue to experience issues after trying these troubleshooting steps, the problem might be related to the complexity or geometry of your model and container. Consider simplifying your meshes and trying again. If all else fails, you may want to seek help on Blender forums or communities for more specific advice tailored to your project. If you are experiencing issues with using a container mesh and Boolean operations to create a mold of your 3D model in Blender, there are a few alternative methods you can try to capture the shape of your model for creating a mold. 1. Solidify modifier. Apply solidify modifier. Apply a solidify modifier to your model to create an outer shell with a specified thickness. Duplicate your model. After applying the solidify modifier, duplicate the model and scale the duplicate slightly larger than the original. Difference Boolean. Perform a Boolean difference operation using the duplicate as the target object and the original as the object to subtract. 2. Sculpt a mold. You can use sculpting tools in Blender to manually create a mold shape based on your model. Sculpting gives you fine control over the shape and detail of the mold. Use retopology. Retopology can help simplify complex shapes to make them easier to sculpt and work with. 3. Shrink wrap modifier. Create a base mesh. Start with a base mesh, e.g. a cube or sphere, and use the shrink wrap modifier to wrap it around your 3D model. Set target. In the shrink wrap modifier settings, set your model as the target object. Adjust settings. Tweak the offset and other settings to control how the base mesh conforms to your model. 4. If you have access to a 3D scanner, you could create a physical version of your model and scan it to create a 3D. The shrink wrap modifier in Blender is a powerful tool that allows you to make one mesh conform to the surface of another mesh. This is useful for various purposes, such as modeling clothing, wrapping one object around another, or snapping objects to the surface of another. How to use the shrink wrap modifier. 1. Select the mesh to shrink wrap. Start by selecting the mesh that you want to wrap around another object. This is usually the mesh you want to conform to the shape of another object. 2. Add the shrink wrap modifier. In the Properties panel, navigate to the Modifier tab, wrench icon. Click Add Modifier and select Shrink Wrap from the list of available modifiers. 3. Choose the target object. In the Shrink Wrap modifier settings, locate the target field and choose the object you want your mesh to shrink wrap around. This should be the object you want your mesh to conform to. 4. Adjust the shrink wrap settings. Offset. This value sets the distance between your mesh and the target object. Adjusting this value can help prevent your mesh from intersecting the target. Mode. There are several modes to choose from. Nearest surface point. Wraps your mesh to the closest surface point on the target. Project. Projects the mesh along the specified axis to the surface of the target object. Target normal project. Projects the mesh along the normal of the target object's surface. Other settings. Depending on the mode you choose, you may have additional settings to adjust, such as specifying which axis to project along. 5. Apply the modifier, optional. Once you are satisfied with how your mesh conforms to the target object, you can apply the modifier by clicking the Apply button. Applying the modifier makes the changes permanent. 6. Edit the mesh. After applying the shrink wrap modifier, you can continue to edit your mesh as needed to achieve your desired final result. Conclusion. The shrink wrap modifier is a useful tool for creating molds, clothing, and other objects that need to conform closely to the surface of another object. By experimenting with the various settings and modes, you can achieve different effects and levels of conformity. A wrap, such as a mesh object modified with the shrink wrap modifier, can conform to the shape of its subject, target object. But whether it saves the subject's shape in a useful way for later printing depends on how the wrap is set up and applied. Here's how you can use the shrink wrap modifier to create a wrap of your subject's shape and possibly save on its own print. 1. Creating the wrap. Start with the subject and wrap mesh. Begin with your subject, target object, and a wrap mesh, e.g. a plane or another simple shape. Apply shrink wrap modifier. Select the wrap mesh and add the shrink wrap modifier from the Modifier Properties tab, wrench icon. Set target. In the shrink wrap modifier settings, choose your subject object as the target. Adjust settings. Choose the appropriate mode, e.g. nearest surface point, and set the offset as needed to control how closely the wrap conforms to the subject's shape. 2. Inspect and apply the wrap. Inspect the wrap. Once you've adjusted the settings, inspect how the wrap conforms to the subject's shape. Apply the modifier. If you are satisfied with the wrap, apply the shrink wrap modifier to make the changes permanent. 3. Check and adjust the wrap. Check for gaps or intersections. After applying the modifier, ensure there are no gaps or intersections between the wrap and the subject's shape. Edit the wrap. If needed, edit the wrap mesh to refine its shape and detail, or use additional modifiers such as subdivision surface to smooth the wrap. 4. Prepare for 3D printing. Check mesh integrity. Ensure the wrap mesh is manifold and free of non-manifold geometry, such as intersecting faces or holes. Export. Once you are satisfied with the wrap mesh, export it to an appropriate 3D printing file format, e.g. STL. Conclusion. The wrap created using the shrink wrap modifier can conform to the shape of your subject and potentially save its shape for later printing. However, the quality and accuracy of the wrap will depend on how well the wrap mesh is set up, as well as the settings and adjustments you make using the shrink wrap modifier. Ensure the wrap is smooth, conforms closely to the subject's shape, and is free of non-manifold geometry for successful 3D printing.
Welcome to the Waverhood. With Wavebear,
When using Boolean operations or the shrink wrap modifier with multiple meshes in Blender, having your model composed of joined items, joined meshes, can affect how the operations work. Here are some potential issues and solutions you might encounter when trying to use two boxes, front and back, on a model made of joined items. Potential issues. 1. Complex geometry. If your model is composed of joined items with complex geometry, it can complicate Boolean operations or shrink wrap effects, possibly leading to unexpected or undesirable results. 2. Non-manifold meshes. Joined items may create non-manifold geometry, such as faces intersecting or overlapping, which can interfere with Boolean operations and shrink wrap effects. 3. Multiple meshes in the model. If your joined items consist of multiple separate meshes, the operations may struggle to process them properly. Troubleshooting and solutions. 1. Check mesh integrity. Inspect meshes. Ensure the joined items form a clean manifold mesh. Look for any intersecting faces, holes, or other non-manifold geometry. Separate items. Consider separating joined items into individual meshes and see if the operations work better on each separate mesh. 2. Simplify the geometry. Reduce complexity. Simplify the geometry of your model or joined items to improve the operations performance. 3. Check the scale and normals. Scale. Ensure the scale of all meshes is set to 1.0 for X, Y, and Z axes. Normals. Make sure all normals are facing outward. Alt-N, recalculate normals. 4. Try applying transformations. Apply all transforms. Select the joined items and apply transformations. Control-A all transforms. When using Boolean operations or the shrink wrap modifier with multiple meshes in Blender, having your model composed of joined items, joined meshes, can affect how the operations work. Here are some potential issues and solutions you might encounter when trying to use two boxes, front and back, on a model made of joined items. Potential issues. 1. Complex geometry. If your model is composed of joined items with complex geometry, it can complicate Boolean operations or shrink wrap effects, possibly leading to unexpected or undesirable results. 2. Non-manifold meshes. Joined items may create non-manifold geometry, such as faces intersecting or overlapping, which can interfere with Boolean operations and shrink wrap effects. 3. Multiple meshes in the model. If your joined items consist of multiple separate meshes, the operations may struggle to process them properly. Troubleshooting and solutions. 1. Check mesh integrity. Inspect meshes. Ensure the joined items form a clean manifold mesh. Look for any intersecting faces, holes, or other non-manifold geometry. Separate items. Consider separating joined items into individual meshes and see if the operations work better on each separate mesh. 2. Simplify the geometry. Reduce complexity. Simplify the geometry of your model or joined items to improve the operations performance. 3. Check the scale and normals. Scale. Ensure the scale of all meshes is set to 1.0 for X, Y, and Z axes. Normals. Make sure all normals are facing outward. Alt-N, recalculate normals. 4. Try applying transformations. Apply all transforms. Select the joined items and apply transformations. Control-A all transforms to reset any scaling or rotation issues. 5. Re-add the modifier. Sometimes, removing the existing Boolean or shrink wrap modifier and adding a new one can resolve issues. 6. Experiment with the Boolean operation or shrink mode. Try different modes. Experiment with different modes, e.g., difference, union, intersect in Boolean. Different modes in shrink wrap to see if another setting works better. 7. Check object types. Ensure both. In Blender, if you have multiple meshes that have been joined into a single object and you want to unjoin them back into separate objects, you can use the separate operation. Here's how to do it. Tash unjoining meshes. 1. Select the object. Start by selecting the object that contains the joined meshes. Click on it in the 3D viewport. 2. Enter edit mode. Once you have selected the object, press Tab to enter edit mode. 3. Select all geometry. To separate all joined meshes, you need to select all the geometry in the object. Press A to select all vertices, edges, and faces. 4. Separate the meshes. Once all the geometry is selected, press P to open the Separate menu. In the Separate menu, choose the option By Loose Parts if you want to separate each distinct mesh within the object into its own separate object. Alternatively, choose By Selection if you only want to separate the parts of the mesh that are currently selected. 5. Exit Edit Mode. Once you've separated the meshes, press Tab to exit Edit Mode and return to Object Mode. 6. Check separated meshes. In object mode, each distinct part that you separated should now be its own separate object in the scene. Conclusion. That's it. By following these steps, you can unjoin meshes that have been combined into a single object and separate them into distinct objects. This is useful for working with different parts of a model individually or for applying different materials or modifiers to different sections. Yes, you can perform Boolean operations to modify the shape of one item using another item and then delete vertices from the modified item. After that, you can join the meshes and then work on merging them to create a seamless connection or tube them together. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to do this in Blender. Step 1. Perform Boolean operations. 1. Select the object to modify. Select the object you want to modify with Boolean operations. 2. Add the Boolean modifier. In the Properties panel, navigate to the Modifier Properties tab, wrench icon, and add a Boolean modifier. 3. Set Target Object. In the Boolean modifier settings, choose the object that will be used to modify the selected object, the other item as the target. 4. Choose Operation. Set the Boolean operation to difference if you want to subtract the target object from the selected object. 5. Apply the modifier. If you are satisfied with the operation's result, apply the Boolean modifier to make the changes permanent. Step 2. Edit and clean up 6. Delete unnecessary geometry. Enter Edit Mode tab key and inspect the modified object. Delete any unnecessary vertices, edges, or faces that remain after the Boolean operation. Step 3. Join Meshes 7. Select both objects. In Object Mode, select both objects you want to join. 8. Join Objects. Press Ctrl-J to join the selected objects into a single object. Step 4. Merge Vertices 9. Enter Edit Mode. Select the joined object and enter Edit Mode, tab key. 10. Select Vertices to merge. Select the vertices from each mesh that you want to merge together. You can use selection tools like B, Box Select, or C, Circle Select. 11. Merge vertices. Press M and choose an option from the Merge menu. At Center, merges the selected vertices at the center point between them. At Last, or at First, merges all selected vertices to the position of the last or first selected vertex. Repeat this process for all areas where you want to merge vertices and create seamless connections. Step 5. Smooth out the connection, optional. 12. Use tools to smooth out the connection. Depending on your needs, you can use the Smooth Vertex tool, W key Smooth, to smooth out the merged area and create a more seamless transition between the two meshes. Conclusion. By following these steps, you can perform Boolean operations on your meshes, delete unnecessary geometry, join the meshes, and merge the vertices to create a seamless connection. This process allows you to create more complex shapes and forms in your 3D models. Given the complex nature of the operations you are performing in Blender, Boolean operations, deleting vertices, joining meshes, and merging them together, it's important to streamline your process to minimize potential issues and improve the overall workflow. Here is a structured process that may help you achieve your goals while minimizing problems. Streamlined process for working with meshes in Blender. Step 1. Preparation. 1. Check geometry. Inspect all models. Ensure each model you are using, both the primary model and the items for Boolean operations, is a clean manifold mesh with no holes, non-manifold geometry, or inverted normals. This will help prevent Boolean issues. Creating manifold meshes is crucial for many 3D modeling tasks, including 3D printing and game development. Manifold meshes are meshes that are watertight, without any holes, self-intersections, or other issues that would prevent them from being properly rendered or printed. Here's a concise guide to help you create and maintain manifold meshes in Blender. 1. Prepare the meshes. Inspect and clean up. Check mesh integrity. Make sure there are no non-manifold geometry issues such as self-intersections, holes, or duplicate faces. Resolve issues. Use the Mesh Cleanup menu in Edit mode to eliminate double vertices, fill holes, and fix other issues. Apply transformations. Reset transformations. Apply all transforms. Control-A all transforms on each model to ensure consistent scaling, rotation, and location. 2. Boolean operations. Add a Boolean modifier to the main object in object mode. Set operation and target. Operation, choose difference, union, or intersect based on the result you need. Target, select the other mesh as the target of the Boolean operation. Apply modifier. Once satisfied with the operation result, apply the Boolean modifier. 3. Clean up post Boolean. Enter edit mode. After applying the Boolean modifier, enter edit mode. Check and resolve issues. Look for issues such as non-manifold edges, unnecessary vertices, or stray geometry. Resolve issues. Use selection tools and the Mesh Cleanup menu to eliminate problems. 4. Join and merge meshes. Join meshes. In object mode, select the meshes you want to combine and press Ctrl-J to join them into one object. Enter Edit mode. Enter Edit mode to work on the joined object. Merge vertices. Select and merge. Choose overlapping vertices that need merging. M key at center or other options. 5. Final checks and adjustments. Check normals. Ensure normals are consistent. Alt-N, recalculate outside for the mesh to behave properly. Check and correct geometry. Look over the mesh to make sure it's manifold, watertight, and fix any remaining issues. Smooth out edges, optional. Use smoothing tools such as Ctrl-B, bevel, or W, smooth vertex in edit mode to refine edges. Conclusion. By following these steps, you can create and maintain manifold meshes consistently and efficiently. Regularly checking your work and fixing any issues as you go will help ensure the integrity and quality of your models. Always back up your work before applying major changes. In Blender, the process you might be referring to that helps automatically connect meshes and make them watertight is known as welding or merging vertices. While this isn't an automated process, Blender provides tools that allow you to easily merge vertices, edges, and faces to close gaps and make your mesh watertight. Here's how you can use these tools to achieve your goal. 1. Enter Edit Mode. Select the object you want to work with and enter Edit Mode, Tab key. 2. Select vertices, edges, or faces. Identify areas to merge. Use selection tools like B, Box Select, or C, Circle Select, to choose vertices, edges, or faces that you want to merge to make the mesh watertight. 3. Merge vertices. Weld merge vertices. Once the vertices are selected, press M and choose the appropriate option from the Merge menu, such as at Center. Merges all selected vertices at the average center point between them. At last, or at first, merges all selected vertices to the position of the last or first selected vertex. This process helps to weld the vertices together, closing gaps and making your mesh watertight. 4. Check and refine. Inspect the mesh. After merging, inspect the mesh to ensure that there are no holes or non-manifold edges. Repeat as necessary. Continue selecting and merging vertices, edges, or faces as needed to make the mesh watertight. Hash additional tools. Snap to. Using snapping options in edit mode, Control-Shift-Tab, can help you align and merge vertices precisely. Vertex Distance Tool. This tool can help identify and merge vertices that are within a certain distance of each other. Control-Shift-Alt-M. Conclusion. Although there isn't a single automated tool specifically called Auto Join for welding meshes and making them watertight, you can use the merging and snapping tools provided in Blender to achieve similar results. Be patient and thorough when using these tools to ensure the quality and integrity of your mesh. Always save your work frequently to avoid losing progress. In Blender, the process you might be referring to that helps